somewhere between like 30 and 60,000.
Wow, that's great.
We've reached 4 million downloads officially in Libsyn.
Cool.
But that's not like including all the other like YouTube and all the other platforms that aren't counted through Libsyn.
You guys are way bigger than me. I average about 350 downloads per episode.
And I think Libsyn's only catching about 1/3.
Really?
A third,
What do you mean?
A third to a half, yeah, since they changed the thing to appease the advertisers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it takes a while. We have to put it out every week. Like, it's stick-to-itiveness, you know, put it out every week and keep hammering it out. And it's easy for us because we have guests. So a lot of times we'll grab a couple of people that come with you or that are interested in your stuff. And, you know, it's not just us chit-chatting. I can't just do it on our own, you know, unless I'm talking about something specific.
I should trademark that. Yeah. Stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good, by the way. I'm going to steal that. Stick-to-itiveness.
I coined that phrase.
It's like, you know what it is? Stick-to-itiveness is like the skillful version of clinging.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not clinging. I'm just stick-to-itiveness.
I don't know if I know the password for the... Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, we're live and stuff. So
on YouTube, too, or...
Everywhere.
All right, let's get this thing started then.
Everywhere.
Are you really live on YouTube?
Yeah.
Can you send the link to me in my chat so my children downstairs can watch me?
I don't know if I know what it is. If they just put in Grimerica YouTube, it'll pop right up. I had a link for a while where you could just do /live, but it doesn't work anymore in the website.
Hey, it says I just looked David Smith, Buddhist Recovery.
There you go.
Hey, look at that.
And it came up.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at myself.
I still find it weird looking through the YouTube feed. I see our show go by. It's creeps me out still. I'd rather just be audio only, honestly.
Too late now, bitch.
Too late. All right, let's do this.
All right.
You ready, Dave?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, we've got Dave Smith back with us. DaveSmithDharma.com, Buddhist meditation teacher and addiction treatment specialist. Welcome back, Dave. We're going to get a chance to plug your upcoming online course in Buddhist recovery. So welcome.
Nice. It's really good to see you guys again. I know the last time I saw you was when I was up in Calgary. Seems like many moons ago, but I appreciate you having me back on. I enjoyed talking to you last time.
Yeah, for sure, man. And this is an important topic too. I mean, I like doing these shows on addiction and helping people be mindful. And I mean, especially now with, with all the lockdowns, I heard a couple of your last shows talking about, what to do with the boredom and how to deal with some of the challenges.
Oh, yeah. Motherfuckers are falling off the wagon en masse. It has to be happening. Like booze sales are through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say much because I've never been on the wagon. Like, I gave up drinking and cocaine and all that crap, but I still smoke my weed.
I think I used to tell people that, when I lived in Nashville, I worked with teenagers. And, every once in a while, a parent would call me, and I'd always joke and say, wow, how far down did you have to go to get to my name? But they'd tell me their kids, I'd be like, you should be happy your teenager's just smoking weed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super pro weed. I don't smoke it, but I think it's definitely, to even call it a recreational drug, it just seems so much more medicinal at this point to me. I know a lot of people. I had a friend of mine whose husband died the last year, and he was in recovery actually, and he smoked weed for the pain from chemotherapy, and they said it made everything fucking way more pleasant.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a harm reduction thing, really, and if that's what people got to do to stay away from the harder stuff, then I'm all for it too, really. Yeah. I just feel like it can still be a slippery slope and still get to you after a few years or decades. I mean, even some famous people that we know that, they did ayahuasca to get rid of their weed addiction, but their weed addiction had taken them down after a while, So I think it's still...
He's back on the weed, though.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for dealing with boredom during lockdowns, all this? I mean, you must have, is your business or your teachings, do you have more people interested now? Is there more people entering into recovery, even though there's the lack of sort of personal meetings going on and stuff?
No, I've been lucky. I sort of have my small pool of Dave Smith folks. I have my mentoring program. I have a lot of dedicated students. So basically what I've done is instead I've been trying to teach a smaller group of people. I've been taking a smaller group of people deeper into the practice.
Perfect.
And boredom is a great practice because boredom is an attitude of the mind. Boredom is 100% your fault. And so, boredom, what do you do with it? It's a very, it's actually a lack of chaos on some level. People just don't know what to do with it. So, it's a great time to be creative or to do the things that you've wanted to do. I think a lot of people are doing that who are super busy. Like, I have this time. Oh, should I take a walk, or I'm going to do some gardening, or I'm going to do some writing, or shit, I'm going to read a book. I think it's a great time to explore doing things that you used to maybe like to do.
Or stuff that you procrastinated about, maybe that you've always been wanting to do for a couple of years. You've had that book on your shelf that, you just never got around to it and then sort of forgot to even bother.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I think some people are taking advantage of it, others not so much.
Yeah. Huh. So do you think there's an increase in this? Like Darren was flapping his gums there about alcohol sales and all this kind of stuff. And
I definitely know. I don't follow that stuff so much. I live way out in rural Colorado now. I'm kind of isolated from all this stuff. But from what I've read and what I've heard, is actually, people are definitely relapses and drug addiction. It was already pretty bad.
Yeah.
But now it's really, really bad. I think people who have been sober for long periods of time have fallen off the wagon, and people who are using are just using more. And I think after this whole thing is over, if it ever ends, that we're going to see a lot of issues with addiction. Not that we didn't already have them, but I think we're going to see something else, something more, something maybe even more tragic.
Yeah, I think there's even the subtler addictions, like stuff that might not be ruining your life right now, but might be causing some misery, whether it's porn or gaming or food or your phone or just all these subtle things that, you're stuck at home bored, and what are you doing, right? I'm going to look at my phone again, or I'm going to look at porn again, or just stay in that virtual reality headset,
That's right. It's hard to get off the screen.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for people that see that coming, or maybe they don't want to see it, but they sense it?
It's hard, because what you're dealing with right out of the gate is denial. And people generally, and I'm like this too, people don't like to admit that they're engaging in something that's maybe unskillful or not so great. And so, or we minimize it. We say, oh, it's really not that bad. It's just my phone. I'm just looking at my phone. It's just, cookies. It's just, so and even, people with alcohol, the minimizing and the denial and the justifying and the rationalizing, if you have that kind of going on in your psychology, you're kind of in big trouble. And unfortunately, usually people don't really deal with it until the consequences get so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my advice is try to be honest about some of the ways in which you're bullshitting yourself about what you're doing.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, there's a freedom in that. Once you get to that point, there's a freedom in not lying to yourself anymore and not lying to other people. That's one of the biggest benefits I've found is just the freedom of honesty.
Right. Yeah. And another way to say that is self-reflection or self-awareness. And, right, self-awareness isn't, when we start having more self-awareness and more self-honesty, we're not always getting good news, So, I always say there's a difference between good news and bad information. You know what I mean? Or good information and bad news. So it's like, is this bad news or is this good? Well, no, it's good information because I'm being informed about some of the things that I'm doing that really aren't serving me. They're not really, they're just kind of an instant gratification. They're just making me sort of feel better, but not even really. So I think that it's better. That's why I think that, of course, what underpins all this work, whether it's Buddhist recovery or regular recovery or any self-help, for lack of a better word, is you have to have some awareness about yourself. And that requires having to probably come to some realization about some truths that are maybe hard to acknowledge.
And does mindfulness come before that even? Because to me, if you're just stuck in your negative thought patterns, and how do you even break out of that?
Yeah, it's hard. You have to want to, you have to have a desire to. You have to recognize that you have these patterns that are destructive and they're not serving you. You have to want to do something about it for something to change. And then, once you have that, there's a whole bunch of things you can do, actually. You're pretty well positioned.
Yeah. Like what? What are some of the things you would teach people in your course?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, self-awareness, mindfulness, being able to understand that there's a difference between thinking and then being aware of thinking. Right? Big difference. But in the first person experience, it doesn't necessarily feel that way. So there's a way in which people can see, the great famous Viktor Frankl quote around between stimulus and response, there's a gap. And in that gap lies my power to choose. So if I have some awareness around my thinking, then I can choose to continue, or I can choose to put my attention somewhere else. It actually turns out one of the most important things is choice. And this is sort of Buddhist meditation 101, and it's also very tied to distraction and addiction culture, is attention. People's attention's all over the place. And if you can choose where you place your attention, you can completely change everything in your life.
And the practice and the practical part of it is that gap will increase the more you pay attention to it, or the more you stop thinking and pay attention to the awareness of thinking. Then that gap increases. That gives you more of a window of choice before you react or whatever. Yeah,
that's right. Those the theory is short moments repeated become continuous.
Right.
So before, like you come back to the breath or whatever, you're there for like a second and you're gone, you're a second and you're gone, then it's 2 seconds. And then before you know it, you can do it for like a whole minute.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm fucking totally meditating right now.
So if you're stuck in that sort of negative, that negative loop of negative thinking, how can you sort of, because I mean, sometimes it's not as easy as just like how do you get people sort of started on that changing your attention? Because I mean, the easy way is to look at your phone or to go find a video game or to find some way to distract yourself from that negative thought process, as opposed to say, because maybe it needs to be dealt with at some point, but how do you sort of categorize dealing with someone who's sort of stuck in that loop, which, tends to lead down that destructive path in a lot of people?
That's right. Yeah. And this is true for everybody. I think the one thing that's sort of the bad news on this is it takes time. I mean, part of the reason why we don't pay attention is because we're always searching for the next hit of pleasant distraction, right? Like a distraction to me is just a sort of psychological addiction. Most people are addicted to being distracted. So to counterbalance that, you have to recognize that that's not working for you anymore and you want to do something about it. And then you have to start doing these meditation exercises or mindfulness practices, even 20 minutes a day, where you actually have to sit and you have to actually do a practice where you notice your mind wander, you come back to your breath. You notice your mind wander, you come back to your breath. The good news is, even the research that comes out of Richard Davidson's laboratory in Madison, Wisconsin, is that if you do that, 5 days a week for 90 days, 90 or 100 days, you actually start to see improvements. So, that's not that long. It's not that long, 90 or 100 days to start to overcome decades of bad habit patterns in the mind. I think that's an encouraging idea. People should be encouraged by that. And that's really what the neuroplasticity is about, is that your mind isn't this like terrible contraption that you're stuck with. It's this fluid experience that you have agency over, but you have to intervene. You have to actually, quote unquote, do something. You can't just choose to stop being distracted.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Do you have any other points about that before I switch topics a little bit?
No, but it's easier to be distracted than it's ever been. I mean, we're probably distracting people right now.
People find it enjoyable. I talk about distraction as it's kind of like junk food for the mind. Like distraction, like the bullshit distractions of your phone and the computer and all that stuff. It's like Cool Ranch Doritos and Dr. Pepper. It's actually pretty good, but you're just taking in all this junk food, right? And it's like it's unhealthy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned attention, and it's something that comes up not from a Buddhist perspective, but from a new thought perspective or manifestation, or where you put your attention. You're manifesting what you put your attention on. So how does that, if you get out of the sort of the Buddhist mindset a little bit, how does that help you? Or do you find that it overlaps with, bringing yourself more focused attention will help you manifest something that might not be part of the Buddhist practice, but might help you, thinking positively about your future or whatever it is that you're paying attention to, instead of negative thought patterns or whatever.
Right. Well, certainly Buddhism doesn't own attention, right? Like attention is a natural function of the mind, so there's that, which is kind of good. And one could argue, the Buddhists would argue, and I think a lot of cognitive scientists would argue now, that attention is the most important function that the mind can perform. It's really what you want to see. People really don't understand. You want to see attention as a resource, something, an internal resource that has a lot of inherent value built into it as a just kind of a part of your, as the engine of your mind. It's like it's like the carburetor, right? It regulates everything.
Could be your most valuable resource.
That's what we've called it. It's your valuable currency. Your most valuable currency is attention.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And the neuroscientists have been saying this for a long time. So, having said that, it's also something that can be trained. And it's also something that can become very destructive. So when you look at what does the untrained attention look like? Well, they use this word in cognitive science called rumination. And rumination is just everyday mind wandering. You just let your mind wander. You just jump from one thought to the next, right? And when you do that, you ultimately end up almost always sort of feeling bad. Yeah,
I heard you say that on one of your last shows, and I don't think I've heard that before yet.
Right. Well, the big four categories, when we're lost in rumination, we're usually thinking about ourselves or others or the past or the future.
Yeah.
Those are the big categories. And most people, that's all they think about. So there's no creativity. There's no imagination. There's no possibility. There's just, she said this, they said that. Why am I like this? Why am I like that? Bad things are going to happen to me because bad things have always happened to me. You're just in that hamster wheel. So you have to just learn how to get out so you can understand what is the experience of non-rumination like. And then when you see, like, when you're not in rumination, that it actually feels good to be aware, it feels good to be mindful, it feels good to not be caught in negativity, then the feel-good system becomes your friend, and you're like, well, I'm just going to do more of this. This feels better.
And maybe real solutions start bubbling to the surface.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, in my experience anyway, it seems like when I can get out of that that circle, and I mean, I'm a huge Napoleon Hill guy, man. I tell people by and large that the most important book, one of the most important books you can read is Think and Grow Rich. And I mean, it's never what people think. They think it's some get rich book, and it's not. It's completely about mindset and manifestation and what most people would call crazy fucking magic in today's world. But, I mean, you look at the people that endorsed that book 100 years ago, and it's pretty impressive.
Nice. It's that old, huh?
Well, it was published in 1937, and he spent 25 years writing it. So I think he started it. He started it in the early teens. He's got like Henry Ford and Edison, and people that turned out to be kind of scumbaggy in the end. But
I know one of the best New Thought books I read was Florence Scovel.
That makes it more important, though, right? That makes it important for people that aren't scumbaggy to use their tricks so that we can balance the scales a little bit.
Right.
Because right now the one end seems a little scumbag heavy.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, the book I read was over 100 years old too, called The Game of Life. I don't know I think that came out before Napoleon Hill's, but yeah, she was talking about the same stuff, like, focusing on positive things and really keeping your attention in the positive future instead of, in the negative past or the scary future.
Well, it's like when we talk to Lynn McTaggart, she talks about how even if you want to forget about the placebo effect and any sort of magic, just take all the woo-woo out of it. We've got experimentation, that intention, just that intention of positive thinking still improves. It's like, I forget the number was like 8% or something like that, but there's still, even with no magic brought into it at all, like if you're just a straight shooter who doesn't want to take any woo or metaphysical into it all, we've got evidence that shows that positive thinking works, period, just because it starts, I don't know how it works because I'm not a scientist, I'm a fucking podcaster, but
that's where that comes back. That's where like the Buddhist practice is so practical because you can catch yourself, like even in some of those mindfulness meditations when it says you can catch your mind, this thought leads to another thought, leads to another thought. Like you can start to trace your thoughts and where they go. They go 3 or 4 stages away. And then you're like, whoa, come back to the breath. Come back to the breath. But you can see it happening, right? And then, and like you said, the rumination seems to end up in negativity for some reason. I don't know if that's human nature or or more of a,
Well, we do have that.
contemporary
There's
thing?
a couple things. There's a couple things that are big. Is we do have a negative attention bias, so it's not actually a fair system. The attention is actually calibrated a little bit towards the negative. And the other way to think about it is, positive, negative is okay, but like the emotional intelligence world has better language around this. Like, for example, like positive outlook is considered an emotional intelligent competency. So people who are emotionally intelligent, who move through the world with more happiness and more ease, and they just tend to see the glass as half full.
Yeah.
Even if the glass isn't half full, it's better to see it that way.
Yeah.
And seeing that, like really positive, negative, the way I like to think about it is it's destructive or constructive.
Right.
And so, it's like, and so you can kind of see. So part of mindfulness is not just noticing the mind wandering, coming back, but noticing if the mind is going to what feels like a constructive or a wholesome or positive place, let it go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't restrict it.
Yep. That's what I've said. When I go to the future, choose to be a positive future instead of a negative future. But that's a lot of training and a lot of habit for me to go to the negative future. But
well, that's the problem with the meditation culture. Is that the meditation culture sort of has a bad attitude about thinking in general. And like if you're thinking, you're not meditating, and it's like, sure, if we're trying to train our attention to be in our breathing, of course there's a degree of that, but at some point we have to deal with our thoughts. And so, from a mindfulness practice perspective, and really I think what you guys are saying, which has nothing to do with mindfulness or Buddhism, is that people are finding that if you are cultivating your mind, you're cultivating an attitude that's more positive, more constructive, more hopeful. Life is just better if you do that.
So that's what that's what that emotional intelligence, like that's what that comes up with. With the positive outlook, it does create a better life for people. Is that what they say, or?
Yeah, and also they say that people who, that's one of the, they study people who, have emotional intelligence and who do well in the world, and that's one of their attributes, right? Like that shows up in the research of like, oh, these people who are happy and well-adjusted and do well, they all have a positive, none of those people have a bad attitude.
Right. Yeah. And some of the people that, some of the people that it's not like they all make it there, but the other ones make it there less frequently.
That's right.
Something like that. Yeah, that's so interesting. Huh. Where do you want to go from here? What do you want to talk about?
Weaponize your attention.
Yeah. You mean, why would you say weaponize?
Well, because it's a fucking battle out there, bro. Have you not been paying attention? I mean, we're in the midst of it.
Pardon the pun. Have you not been paying attention? Yeah.
Well,
I didn't even notice the pun. I'm just punning on autopilot now. Auto pun.
Well, there's a word that people have been using now that I like around what's going on in the world right now called doom scrolling.
Oh,
and that's what you're talking about. That's that weaponized attention. Is like, I think right now I've just noticed this since this whole COVID thing, and down here we got to deal with this crazy maniac named Donald Trump. I'm sure you've heard of him. And so, I have to restrict, and I have to really actually put effort into daily not letting myself take in too much
doom scrolling,
media, COVID. Like you just can't do it because. So I think part of it is just trying to manage that.
And we've entered this new world where there's no such thing as like facts and shit anymore. I mean, it's all just shit on the screen. It's not worth paying attention to. It's all spin.
And I don't know anybody. I dare you to find a human being that's happier as a result of watching the news.
Do they ever do the lotto on the news?
They used to.
Do, but you can probably get that on your little.
Well, I don't know. Like Europe has some of those naked weather girls. Those look all right.
Yeah.
That's not news, though. That's the weather.
Is the weather not news? It is kind of a shit show, especially in Alberta. But yeah, I mean, we were going to start the podcast we were going to have a good news segment.
It was going to be about good news.
You guys should totally do that. Should call it good news only.
Good news only. Yeah. There you
go. We have a thing on the roof that says good vibes only.
There you go. We're halfway there.
But then how do you deal with those negative vibes when they come up?
I don't get them.
Transmute them.
I got rid of them.
Really?
I did.
I feel like I'm almost there in a lot of ways too. Like when I get tested. But I feel like you can't keep me down for long. You just can't. No matter how much shitty it is, a couple hours later, I'm going to bounce back.
Yeah.
I
You're
might still
resilient
be
is
grumpy.
the word they use.
But
What's that?
You're resilient. Is the term.
Resilient. Yeah.
It means that you recover. There's that word. You recover more quickly from a setback or like a disappointment or a conflict. We always get these little setbacks in life in all these different ways, and you get back to your kind of general set point a lot quicker. And that's one thing you want to learn how to measure over time, is that sense of resilience.
I've been called optimistic to a fault.
What?
Okay.
Do you think that's a thing?
Like, I'm trying to imagine who would have called him that. Like, I don't know anybody that would have called him that. But.
Must have been a very negative person.
Well, yeah, I have been accused in the past of just being too, too focused on the good and not really. But that's my mindset. I feel like the battle work itself out.
I think if you're avoiding things that you need to deal with, in that magical thinking. But I don't know. I don't. If that's your problem, then I think you're doing pretty good.
I'll take
Your
that.
Your problem is that you're too positive, then I think you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Did you find that route to emotional intelligence from Buddhism was a natural kind of thing for you to start learning that? I mean, it seems to fit very well.
It does. It does. But one thing that I noticed that I kind of hit the wall in my Buddhist practice and my Buddhist training was that I didn't feel like Buddhism or Buddhist practice or whatever you want to call it, it didn't adequately address emotions. And so when I started to notice that actually most of my suffering in life was emotional. Like if I'm not, I do pretty good. My mind, my body, we're pretty good in here. But when emotions, anger, fear, sadness, shame, these types of things, when I become emotional, that's when I suffered, and I didn't feel like I was getting any kind of directions on how to deal with that. And so when you take mindfulness or you take a contemplative practice into the world of emotions, then you actually have a fighting chance. And I think a lot of it has to do with realizing that emotions aren't going anywhere. And also emotions aren't negative or positive either. They're constructive or destructive. Most people would say anger is a negative emotion. Well, that's not true. Anger can be very helpful, can be very useful. So it's not the emotion that's, good or bad or negative or positive. It's my relationship to the emotion. So sadness can be very helpful and very constructive, and so can anger. So that changed the game for me of like, oh, you mean I'm stuck with these things? Because I thought if I was going to be a good Buddhist meditator and I was going to awaken or become enlightened and all that, tomfoolery, that I would stop having that experience, and I wasn't stopping having that experience. So I had to look outside the box.
Well, the other thing is when it happens now, when I get angry, which is fairly rare, but if I get angry or in a conflict, I feel it physically in my body like I never used to. I mean, I was numb to any kind of physical attunement to my emotions, but now it's a visceral, shaking or feeling in my body in certain areas, which I would have never thought. Yeah, like literally physical, when a conflict. And so it's
that's one of the problems with emotional intelligence is that most people repress their emotions that they don't want to deal with. And so when you've been practicing for a little while, when you stop repressing them, you actually feel them. And sometimes that can be counterintuitive. You're like, well, wait a minute. I don't, this is worse now. I was better off repressing them.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel it in my body now.
Yeah.
But you actually have to, that's like the second stage of emotional intelligence. You have to identify that you've become emotional. And then secondly, you have to actually access that emotion. And a lot of people, when they're in the heat of the moment, we don't want to do that.
Now, does the act of acknowledging that emotion, or does it help it dissipate? I mean, just that awareness of it help it dissipate?
Yeah, it does. It does. Awareness of an emotion will take the intensity out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't find it takes the intensity out of it so much, but it makes me able to navigate the space without reacting to it. Whereas, say, a couple of years ago, I'd be yelling and screaming. I can just sort of logically, if you looked at me or hooked, my heart's going a mile a minute, and I might even be shaking a little bit, but I'm able to keep my cognitive discipline and my wits about me and not say things that I'm going to regret or things like that. And that's not all the time, but
no
it's still like most of the time compared to where it was like 5 years ago. It was none of the time.
Right. Yeah. So that means you're regulating it you're letting it in. You're not repressing it. You're letting it in, but you're actually working with it in real time, and you're not letting it overtake what you say or what you do. And it's hard work, right? When you're in it,
yeah, especially when you're podcasting, because sometimes it'll happen while you're on the mic in a conversation, and you've got to try and, because you can feel that fluttering in your chest, and to try and maintain that it can be, because, you don't want to descend into madness. You just don't.
Do you guys get heated moments on the podcast? Do you guys get into it with people?
Not so much heated as just like emotionally ranty or something like that.
Sure.
And we get into it with each other sometimes. I mean, we did over the whole COVID. So. We did over the COVID thing. We're like, because I wanted to talk about it and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. And I'm like, we had a sort of an argument about it.
Yeah, I can see that with you guys. You guys definitely. I can smell the beef through the screen.
Yeah, it's good though.
You guys obviously have unresolved issues between you, but it's okay. It's good.
Yeah, tons.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's good because we have different opinions. I mean, we've had we've evolved differently throughout the show and the time, and it's super interesting where we've come from and where we are now.
Look what Cat wants in.
But we can fight about things or argue about things, and it's all good. It's fine. So
nice.
Yeah. But we don't get into it with guests that much.
When we were fighting on the one episode, people commented about how we fight like dorks. Because we were just like able to like hear each other's opinions and have a real communication. Like,
yeah. You guys have like a D&D style fight, huh?
Oh, I don't play that shit. I can't.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
I just roll dice.
Yeah, take turns. Take your turn, my turn. So what about your course? Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, sure. That sounds like a good transition. It's we could talk for hours about this, but the long story or the short story is that, I was part of refuge recovery, and I've been involved in addiction treatment for many, many years. And of course, recovery Dharma is a thing now. But generally speaking, I've been sort of pretty disappointed at the status of the Buddhist recovery world. I think that there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of appetite. It could really, really help a lot of people. And it's just kind of like,
it's stagnant.
It's in a bad state of affairs.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the things so people have been asking me about that, and I've politely kind of stepped aside for a while, but now I feel like I can bring something back in that's going to be helpful. And I think one of the things that's a big debate you can't really get around it. It's this hierarchy, right? Like, so people were pissed off around the refuge recovery thing and all that happened with Noah. And then Recovery Dharma wanted to do a peer-led thing to kind of resist that. But the problem is somebody needs to know what they're talking about. And so the Buddhist tradition does have a 3,000-year-old tradition of what's called Dharma transmission. Sort of there is a hierarchy built into a student-teacher relationship. Somebody needs to know what the hell we're talking about, or we're not going to get anything done. So the reason why one thing that's been a benefit of COVID is this switch online is like, now that I've gotten savvy at building online content, is like I built an online course. So it's not that I'm in charge. It's that we have a course, we have material. It's like a college class, and we can talk about the material. And I'm not saying I'm right, and it's not authoritarian. It's more of a conversation.
Yeah.
I have had people don't have to do what I did. They don't have to spend 25 years reading these old Buddhist texts and trying to come to terms with this stuff. It's like, you might as well cheat off my homework.
Yeah.
And, so what I've done is I've laid out the early teachings in a very pragmatic way, a very practical way where there's videos that they can watch. There's hours of videos. There's teachings to read. There's guided meditations. It's all in there. You get access to the class. It's a subscription based. And if you get the whole thing at once, you can go in there. And then every week I get on the Zoom for an hour and I pick a piece out of the course and I talk about it. We do some meditation and then we discuss it.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have to be in the same room. Like I don't have to be in Calgary for you to participate. And people have acclimated to Zoom a little bit. So I thought it would be a good time and a good place to really give something to people that they could actually use and then that we could actually discuss. Because one of the things that I think is important when people take on a meditation practice or a Buddhist practice or a Buddhist recovery practice, people want to feel like they're making progress.
Yeah.
And that's true with anything. If I want to learn to play guitar, I want to eventually learn how to play Stairway to Heaven, right? I want to be able to track this stuff. And if I don't have a teacher and I don't have teachings, if I don't have a measuring stick, then I'm never going to be able to tell what's going on. So having this three-way relationship where there's a teacher, there's a student, and then there's content, it gives us at least some kind of a measuring stick to get a sense of what we're doing, why we're doing it, is it working, is it not working? Because Buddhism it's simple but not easy. So, lots of things come up. And so if you don't have anybody to talk to about them, I call it homeschoolers. There's all these Buddhist recovery homeschoolers out there. And, it's hard to be a homeschooler.
Yeah, and people will have direct access to you as a partner as well, not just a teacher-student kind of thing, right? But it'll be more interactive, I guess, right?
More interactive. It's more like I feel like I'm a lab partner, or like a teacher, would be in a school setting where it's like, yes, I'm sort of the authority figure. I do have the content, but we can talk about it. It's not so top down that way. I'm not trying to control what you do or how you think.
Yeah.
Which is what happens in a kind of one-on-one hierarchical, kind of, in the spiritual traditions, whether it's religious, spiritual, Buddhist, doesn't want to call it, they've all had their scandals. They've all had their problems because of the power dynamic that gets created. And also, it's going to be hard for me to manipulate you through the screen.
Yeah. Do you have a length, or does it go for a certain? Is there an end, or does it just continually?
No end,
it just
man.
evolves.
It's endless.
Yeah.
So what it is? So I created this content, which is a lot, and then what I'll do is we'll have the weekly calls, which I'll record, like you saw me do in my other ones. So if you miss it, I'll record the audio and put it back into the course. So what I'll do is I'll keep adding to the course as we find new things that the course doesn't address.
Nice.
Needs to be added. So it'll just be this ongoing like Buddhist recovery library that just grows and expands, and it's subscription based. So you pay a monthly fee, and and if you want to cancel, you cancel. If you want to come back on, you come back on. It's no big deal. People are used to that now. They don't have Netflix. They get Netflix because there's a show they like, and then they watch the show and then they cancel it again. It's like it's kind of an ongoing thing.
That's a great idea. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, I was thinking, I was like, well, what would I want to do? If, as a student, I was like, well, I wish I had something like that I could actually plug into. And the good thing was I did enough of research when I worked for Mindful Schools around these learning management systems. And I found one called Rizuku, which is like a learning management system. So once you get the access to the course, you can use it. You can do it on your tablet. You can do it on your computer. You can get it on your phone. So you can be sitting in the airport, you can be sitting on your back porch, you're looking at the course, watching the videos, doing the readings and the guided meditations. You can do it right on your screen. So if people are addicted to their screens, they might as well look at something that actually might be fucking helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Good timing for it too, really. I mean, it's interesting being a part of the Buddhist recovery community that is now online, even locally. Like, I mean, we have our little Zoom meetings every week, or there's a few meetings every week now, but it's not. There's less people showing up. It's not the same as it being in person, but it's not, and it's just the same meeting. It would be nice to get deeper into some of this stuff.
Now, is this just recovery based? Is this just for people that are struggling with addiction, or can anyone just be like, hey man, I want to learn some mindfulness?
It's interesting. I have two women actually in LA who emailed me and said, hey, I'm not in recovery, but I really want to take your course. Can I take your course even if I'm not in recovery? I was like, absolutely, anybody can take it.
Yeah.
Because I would argue from a Buddhist perspective that everybody's addicted to something anyway.
Yeah, just like the 12 steps are beneficial to everybody, really, if they wanted to practice it.
So I think what will happen, which will be good, is generally speaking, the people who are signing up for the course are people who I already know, me, who like me, and who like my stuff. So, there's probably already 50 people signed up who are people who have been doing this for a while. They've been in recovery, a lot of them 10, 20, 30 years. They're really in the maintenance stage. That as new people might come in, hopefully, they're going to just have a great group of people that they can connect with.
Yes.
And the other thing is in the module coursework, every activity has like a little question and prompt. So you can type, there's all these little chat rooms and these little discussion threads that people can engage in the course. So you can connect, you can talk to other people all over the world right inside the course material. You can put pictures and videos and all different types of stuff. So the interactive piece, if people, like I say, you're on your phone anyway, you might as well do something constructive.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So what about, what do you think about recovery community in general with Buddhism and so is it stagnant, do you think? Is it having problems? Because I haven't really been paying attention at the higher level like that.
I don't know. I
going.
unplugged from a while ago, but from what I hear, I know people who have been in it, and it sounds like a lot of people are sort of just disappointed and frustrated because they're not, they already went through their recovery dharma, refuge recovery debate, and I think people are just sort of like, a little bit kind of like, oh, whatever at this point. There's a lot of sort of disappointment that I think the enthusiasm has been kind of robbed from that whole thing.
Yeah.
It was never thriving anyway. It's like, it wasn't even around that long before the shit hit the fan early.
Yeah.
And so it was like, that didn't help. So, but also Buddhism recovery has been around for 50 years. People have been doing this stuff for a long, long time. But as far as, people being able to do it more in a collective sense, that's a little bit newer. And I think what my hope is actually giving people clear, concise, accurate frameworks for what the early Buddhist tradition is saying. Because Buddhism is, there's, how many kinds of Buddhisms are there? And which Buddhist recovery is it? So, I talk about this in the course, but just to say, like, what I'm doing is I'm just going all the way back to the earliest teachings, to what's in the Pali Canon, what they call early Buddhism in the academic world. And I'm just pulling I'm just going back to the first album. And I'm like, okay, let's just and that's what I'm taking from. There's a bunch of stuff that comes later. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I'm just not going there. I figure if we're going to explore this stuff, let's go to the original source. Let's see what it says. And let's see if it works. So I would say a lot of this to me feels very experimental.
I think it's good timing, man. There's a pushback from the 12 steps. People don't know where to go for recovery now. The Buddhism style can satisfy both people that are into spirituality and the secular crowd because it's not so sort of deified, even though it's a lot
less woo-woo, I think, and I largely thank the science world and the secular mindfulness world. I mean, you go to a whole health food store, and there's a mindful magazine on the rack. It's not some mystical, weird hippie shit anymore. It's just really, it's very mainstream, and so I think that people are less. I've been on Buddhist meditation retreats with Catholic priests before, and so it doesn't have that belief system element to it.
Yeah.
It just sort of has that, like, well, come and try it out. If you like it, great. If not, no, it's no big deal. There's no obligation.
Yeah. It's more
you're not going to burn in hell if you get it wrong.
Yeah. It's more of a, I guess it'd be more of like, it's almost like a practice than a religion. It's more of like a way of living your life. It's a day to day, you could break it down to being like, almost like exercising. You
couldn't have said it better. I mean, I don't know who you stole that from, but you're saying it exactly right.
Yeah.
And actually, if you really break it down, if you really want to break it down, it's actually recognizing that your life actually does happen one moment at a time. And if you get good at being able to pay attention to moments, you're actually way more connected to your life.
Right.
And so, we know that, that your life happens one moment at a time, but we get so caught up in our thoughts and our distractions that, sometimes the whole day goes by. And if you ask me what I had for breakfast, I'm like, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast.
Yeah.
Darren, what'd you have for breakfast? Do you remember?
I had coffee for breakfast. Yeah.
Me too.
I had Darren's homemade sausage
for breakfast.
Nice.
I got this thing with Popeyes. I really wanted Popeyes for lunch. So I tried to go to the Popeyes. I rerouted my thing because, I eat pretty good, but I got this fucking thing with Popeyes. I got to get that Cajun shrimp once a week. I just love that shit. And there's a huge line at Popeyes. So I just skipped lunch.
You pieced out.
Yeah, I just skipped
I have
lunch.
the thing. That's why I moved to rural Colorado. I'm 45 minutes away from a traffic light. And I'm like at 45 minutes from like a McDonald's.
Yeah, you're not going to any fast.
I just don't eat it because it's too inconvenient.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good plan.
So I'm like, fuck it, I'll go downstairs and make a salad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the better thing to do. If I could just I got so much food here too that if I could just slip into the mindset of making lunches, I'd be in.
So Popeyes is your Achilles heel.
Oh yeah, and skip the dishes too. These motherfuckers. I mean, it's just like
I'm so sick of cleaning my kitchen.
This is the thing that gets me because I do cook a lot, and I have, I've always got tons of wild meat in my freezers, and there's always tons of food here, but it's those dishes, and just like I'll be sitting around, hanging out with the kids or the girlfriend, and it's just like, or I just had my family here for the holidays, allegedly, and it's like, okay, it's gonna take fucking 40 minutes to cook this shit. And then it's going to take it another 40 minutes to clean it up. Or I could just go on my phone and some shit will show up at the door and someone will ring the doorbell and I won't even have to look at them.
See, I don't have that luxury. Those days are over for me.
This is the problem. They get you.
You got to move rural, bro. If you can't handle it, man, you can't handle it.
I can't handle the pressure.
You got that Popeyes crack pipe going, man, and you just can't put it down.
This is it. I realized today it's a real, because I was like emotional when there was a line at the drive-thru. I was like, I have a problem.
So when does your course start? February 1st?
It starts February 1st officially. So so I'm doing a discount right now. If you register for the whole year, you save like $200. It's like, it's $280 for the whole year, which actually gives you a little bit more it gives you more accountability, because if you sign up for the whole year, you're better off. But so that's open right now. And also you can just sign up for $40 a month and just, they'll just pull it out, whatever, like you do everything else. And I did all the annoying legwork on trying to get all that back end technical stuff set up. So people can sign up for both. But February 1st, the course opens, so you'll get access to all the stuff. And then starting on February 7th, the sessions will begin. So I'm going to alternate, because everybody's, now there's no good convenient time for anybody anymore. So I'm going to do Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights. So it'll be Sunday morning, and then it'll be like 9 days and a Wednesday night, and then a short Sunday morning and a Wednesday night. So that way people don't, who just can't do Sunday morning.
I don't know about Sunday morning, but the Grimerica's on Wednesday nights, bro. Wait, today's Tuesday. Well, sometimes it's on Wednesday, so that's some heavy competition.
Well, sometimes don't do that.
I mean, Sunday you're only competing with God. That's nothing.
What time?
Yeah, his numbers are going down.
Yeah, big time.
What time on Sunday morning is it?
10 a.m. Mountain.
10 a.m. Mountain. Oh yeah, 10 a.m. our time. Yeah. So
you're Mountain too.
Can people join later on, like in March, April? Like, is it open to people? Like, you don't have to start, right? Yeah.
No, that's just when it's going to open. So you could if it goes well, which I think it will. It has been. It's already been pretty successful. More people will just come, and my hope is that it will do well and that it will be successful, and then I'll add more nights. If there's enough of people coming in and there's enough of money coming in, I'll add a night. And my hope would to be to the point where it gets big enough that there's enough of income and enough of capital that there could be a meeting every night of the week, maybe even like a nooner. The sky's the limit. So that way, and then I'll train other people, or I have other people I know. Like my wife's going to do some of the sessions.
Good.
So that way, it could actually, it could turn into, I don't know that it will. I don't care if it does.
But but at least it's scalable.
It's scalable. That's the word I've learned recently. It's definitely scalable. And it'd be great if it could be like, every night of the week, so you could just kind of pop on. And the great thing with technology now is I'll just record all of them. So if you miss it, you can just listen to it later. I'll put the audio up. So it's, it's one of those things that you really won't miss anything.
Well, like I was saying before we started recording, I like your style of, even in your podcast feed that you have right now, Dave Smith Dharma, you've got some stuff in there where you record your classes, where you record a little Dharma talk at the beginning on a subject, whether it's dukkha or metta practice or something, and then you'll do your meditation, and then I don't know.
And then we do a discussion, but I don't record the discussion, so other people don't have to be all over the interwebs. And I'll do the same thing with this. So if people want to share or ask questions and they're nervous, I'm not going to put that up. I edit that part out.
Yeah.
And so it's nice because it's quick. Like you've listened to them. They're like 40 minutes. It's like 20-minute talk, 20-minute meditation. It's a nice bite size.
Yep. And what else was I going to say? And I can attest to, I have a friend of mine that's been coached by you monthly, and he loved it. So, I have evidence that.
Is it Donnie?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's good. I'm going to be listening out there. I miss that dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while either. Yeah. But so I mean, it's I think it's good. I'll recommend people to check it out for sure.
Yeah, I hope you guys do good up there. I want to get back up there at some point if we ever, if I ever get to leave my property again.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe maybe what I'll do is I'll share this with my Dharma group out here too. Your information.
Cool.
And we can talk about it in our announcements or something like that as well. So
that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
I appreciate the support always.
I don't know if you've connected with them already, but I'll make sure that they get the information.
Yeah, it's hard now because there's so many of them out there. I just kind of, it's the world of the interwebs, right? You just chuck it out there on Instagram and Facebook, and it's just like, it's like a flamethrower,
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to land. That's why I was happy to connect with you again and let people know about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, right on.
I had a good conversation a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you bet. So do you want to, is there anything else you think you left out about it, or do you want to wrap it up?
No, I'll send you some links. You can pop them up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything that I do is at davesmithdharma.com.
Yep.
So if you go to my website, anything that I've ever basically done is somewhere there.
Yep.
I think there's a link to that on the homepage, so people can check that out.
Right.
And also, I have Dave Smith Dharma podcast. I have a bunch of stuff out there, probably more stuff than I even know about at this point, because the interweb is just it is what it is.
Right on, Dave. Well, I wish you all the best. I hope. I think that's a really good idea to do this. Maybe this is what the Buddhist recovery community needs: is a new take on this, a new sort of online tool. I think it's a good idea. The more I think about it, the more I think this is what's kind of needed. A little bit more focused,
I appreciate it, man.
Focused stuff instead of just sort of these meetings that people go to sort of without real deep discussion or direction. Like this will be more in-depth learning.
I don't mean to be derogatory about it, but it's a little bit like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
It's like if you went to an AA meeting with 30 newcomers, you'd probably all end up at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Right on.
Good to see you, Darren.
Thanks, Dave. Good luck.
See you, buddy.
And that was a chat with
Dave Smith.
Fabulous Dave Smith. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah. I like it.
Now you and Dave are buddies?
No. We talked on the show last couple years ago. He remembered.
Oh, is that all? Is that all how you know Dave?
And I saw him at a live. Like he did a conference. What would I say? Conference or teaching for Recovery Dharma, or it was Refuge back then before it split. But it was fantastic. It was a workshop. And I met him in the workshop, and it was great workshop with him. And so I thought, he'd be good on the podcast. So I talked to him about it then. And
how long ago was this?
A couple of years ago now.
I don't think I remember. What episode was it?
Oh my God! Really? We were just talking about this before we started recording.
Dude, we're officially.
You just went through all that.
We're officially at the point. I did just go through them because I just downloaded every episode we've ever done on Black Budget and on the regular feed. The regular feed is 56.5 gigs.
Episode 245. What?
Oh, yeah, so that's almost like half the show ago.
It can't be that old.
That's half the show ago, bro.
2017. October 2017.
We really turned it up like 3 years ago, eh? We've done half the episodes in 3 years almost.
Yeah.
Of an 8-year podcast.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Cranking them up. And now we got the new feed, all this crazy shit happening. What a wonderful time to be alive. This is it. How could you be... This is my positivity problem. Come bubbling to the surface again.
I mean,
who thinks? See, I'm the guy who had a good year during like the worst year in recent history.
Yeah.
But I still think there's some positives going to come out of this shit.
Oh yeah.
Hollywood's toast.
Yeah.
This is it. Take the power back.
Yeah, I do really think mindfulness is key. It's important. The practice that Dave teaches is very, very important.
Well, I think it's more important now because it was like built in, or it was like the norm, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for was, but maybe it was like inevitable to a certain extent up until 30, 40, 60 years ago, somewhere in that, where you don't have endless distractions you can get yourself into. And I think, especially like 100 years ago or 200 years ago, there's just a certain amount of zen in your work. You're not thinking, fuck, I got to get, because I like to think that those people were never like, fuck, I got to get this till field field tilled so I can go pick up the kids from school, or you're just in your life. You're very
no, I feel like
you're
that
very
too.
Forced into the moment.
No, I feel like
think
that was
this,
the 80s for us. I mean, I
this
feel
is
like
not the 80s, bro.
no,
It's not,
Darren, I'm saying that was what I felt like in the 80s. Like we were riding around on our bikes and it didn't matter. Like it was just whatever. We were just doing whatever.
I
We were
see
in the
what
moment.
you mean.
Like
Yeah, to a certain extent when you were younger.
and
for
we
sure.
even like at night. Okay, we watched a TV show, but we were just content with just watching a TV
Even
show
when
with
I was,
ads. Like there wasn't a million
there's a certain
things.
part of it when you're a kid. I think that because when I was a kid too, it was like the same thing. We could have watched TV. Well, I only had 3 channels. And video games were still pretty early, but by the time I was like 10, we were up to I had a Sega Genesis or some shit, but I still spend most of my time
outside
doing something.
Yeah.
That was until it was late or cold in the winter.
Yeah,
and then, you still go into the rink and it's just like, but I think when you go back a couple hundred years, it's just like, there's nothing else to be doing but living, and you don't know any better. You're not going through an Instagram feed or watching TV, dude's crib and how he's got butlers and a better house than you. You're just like, you probably didn't see any houses outside of your village. It's just, you got to get that shit done.
You didn't know there was a guy like Dan Blazarian with like 20 chicks around him at all times.
Who's Dan Blazarian?
You don't know? That's okay.
You just make that up. Anyway, big shout out to Dave. Thanks for coming on the show again. Big shout out to you guys. Big thanks to you guys for listening to our crazy ramblings.
Yeah, thanks. I want to shout out to the guy who has quitted gambling. Appreciate it. Hang in there, buddy. Maybe connect with Dave Smith or recoverydharma.com, I believe, or .org. There's meetings all over the place. You can connect with some people that are going through the same thing.
Totally. If you want to support the show so we can keep doing this work without bending to corporate overlords or sponsorship or just having to find something else to do because the money dried up, Grimerica.ca/support. If you can, when you can, sign up for a monthly or do a one-time donation. Or we don't have any other revenue stream except for you guys and the listeners, and we're lucky enough to have a few hundred of you that pay all the bills and stuff now and help us keep going and growing. 2020 was hard on that, so we're hoping to make 2021 a year of recovery. So Grimerica.ca/support. If you can, when you can, guys. We could use it now more than ever. Launching new projects, new expenses, new everything, more time. We love you. Grimerica.ca/support. Of course, there's a bunch of ways you can help the show in the show notes. Check out the show notes wherever you're listening to the podcast, or go to Grimerica.ca and check out this episode number, and all the notes will be there. And there'll be links to everything and how to support and review the show and share the show and sign up for newsletters and all that fun stuff.
It's all in the show notes.
All helps. It's all in the show notes. Grimerica.ca/chats. If you want to have better conversations than you're probably having it on your current social media, check that out. Not every day, but most days. And I think that's all we got. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. I hadn't thought if we should add I guess we should start talking about the new feed and the outros and intros and stuff for a bit.
For a long time, every time we should highlight it. It should be a segment in the intro.
Are you ready to do the new show tonight? I have 90 minutes.
We do have a lot of time. You can't bring those guys in a bit?
I wouldn't, we just confirmed them yesterday and everything and went back and forth. And
okay.
It's 1:30 their time tomorrow.
Yeah. So.
Maybe, but I don't want to email them at this point and ask that. But I got the new YouTube ready to go, so we could even jump over there and try streaming it. What do you guys think in the chats? What should we do?
Are you still live?
I think we're still live.
Oh, we can't keep us going live like that. It's creepy.
Oh, is it creepy?
Yeah. Anyways, thanks. Oh, live stream on the radio or chat in the YouTube too?
We're live on both.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Huh. Okay, we might have. Well, if we do roll, we have to go on another show on another stream. So
yeah, it'll be YouTube Grimerica Outlawed. We're gonna jump over there.
We can do it if you want. Yeah.
All right. How long you need to get ready?
I don't know.
All right. We'll be back in like 20 minutes on the other stream. I don't have a link for you, so you just have to search Grimerica Outlawed. It should come up somewhere. I could no, I don't want to do that. It's just too much effort. Will it just pop up if I go like this? Will it
Oh, it should be though.
No.
Huh.
No, well, not unless you add it down here. I'm not sure I know what the password is.
Oh.
Let's see. This isn't.
Just bear with us for a sec here, and this is going to be all part of the app, I guess.
Part of the magic.
Part of the app, I guess.
No, well, I stopped the recorder.
Yeah, I know, but part of the YouTube app that hangs around out there.
Oh, yeah.
Darren's just trying to grab a link for the next show, just in case.
A link.
But I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, I think this is it.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
No episodes. 23 subscribers.
All right, he's going to pop this over. This is our new feed, talking about some more of the deeper sort of controversial stuff, I guess you could say.
Okay, wait. Now, how do I get back to where I was?
Go to click on Restream, or
There we go.
are you back in there, really?
I think I'm back in, except I'm going to comment it as Grimerica Outlawed. Isn't this cool? I think it'll work. And then people could probably just click on our little name there somehow or something. I don't know how it works. Anyway, that's it. We'll catch you motherfuckers shortly. Stop.
Okay, well,